This is going to be a video film study / commentary on J.K. Dobbins and some of the comments that are out there and what he did or did not choose to do last week or this past week in mandatory minicamp. Here recently, I'll be honest with you, I have not had the time to produce many videos. I'm so glad that other people like Sip Tally and Edgar Allen have consistently been putting content out there. I see it pop up on my YouTube notifications. Personally, haven't had time to do so in the last month for a lot of good reasons. I hope that you're staying busy for good reasons as well. But this one kind of got my attention and drew my ire, I guess I should say. Look, J.K. Dobbins has apparently had a lot to say since the Ravens wildcard loss to the Bengals to finish the 2022 season. He's also tweeted stuff recently about wanting to be a Raven for his entire career or lamenting the fact that he might not be, I guess. He's apparently not participated in minicamp because he wants a contract extension, presumably before his fourth season begins, 2023, the upcoming season, so that he has some security, understandably so. Dobbins had a lot to say after the Ravens' 24-17 loss to the Bengals in a wildcard game, where, quite frankly, the Ravens look like the better team for most of the game. You're seeing some of the highlights here. I've separated these highlights and plays, and I will kind of break down a couple of them soon. I've separated them into four concepts. Number one is outside zone and stretch concepts, which is what you're seeing run here. Counter concepts, meaning some people call them gap schemes, where he's running behind a pulling guard and a pulling tackle and trying to find a lane, and he does so expertly. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a problem really with anything J.K. Dobbins has said, anything he's put on social media. Damn sure didn't have a problem with what he said after the Ravens loss to the Bengals and what he said like 1 or 2 days later, because I agreed with him. Having said that, the coaching side of me really doesn't like him, not participating this week if he is a full go, if he is completely healthy, which I suspect he is. He certainly looked amazing the last time we saw him, and I'll allude to that and summarize some of the stats here later, because I know there's a lot of people who like to just talk about stats. So they'll say, well, he only ran for 520 yards last year. Yeah, but if you look at the last 5 games he played, 4 regular season games, and then a wild card playoff game against the Bengals, where he was the best player on the field for the Ravens offense. It was pretty amazing the way he came back and finished the season. Particularly since the Ravens are installing a new offense, though, the coaching side of me is really conflicted because I'd want him to be there for that install. I'd want him to be there for those rules, for those checks. I thought he was spot on, though, with so many things he said or mentioned, particularly after that loss to the Bengals. When the Ravens offense gets down there to the 1-yard line against the Bengals, and you guys know if you watch my content or listen to my content enough, I think incredibly highly of the Bengals defense. I think they'll be spectacular again in 2023. But having said that, I think JK was absolutely correct with what he said. He didn't say, I want to be that guy who gets the ball down there. He said, I am that guy, something like that. And he's right. For a large part of that game, against, again, what I think was one of the best defenses in the NFL in 2022 and 2021 for that matter, J.K. Dobbins was the best player on the field, meaning when the Ravens offense had the ball against the Bengals defense, he was the best player on the field. I firmly believe, looking back at that game, that moment, if he gets the ball there twice, the Ravens are probably moving on to the divisional round. If you're a Bengals fan or not a Ravens fan listening this long, first of all, thank you for listening, but that's just what I believe. Just based on how he ran the football at the end of the season. He didn't play in the Week 18 regular season loss to the Bengals, and it kind of showed. I'll stop speculating here and provide a little bit of statistical backup to offset the crew that I'm sure is going to show up. JK's only played 23 games in his career for those people who seem to focus solely on JK's one NFL injury, which was a torn ACL in a preseason game he shouldn't have been playing in the first place, while somehow ignoring the injury history of Rashad Bateman, OBJ, and even Lamar Jackson when it comes to salary structure and wanting to allocate funds towards someone. Lamar's missed 10 games in the past 2 years and not finished 2 others. Now, personally, I don't think any of those guys I mentioned is injury prone. It's just football. That's just football. Bateman's trying to come back from a specific injury that dogged him last year. JK had trouble coming back from an ACL, had to get a rescope or a scope or something like that. Definitely came back strong, which I'll present the stats here in a moment for you. I don't think Lamar's injury prone. But for the crowd who complains about JK possibly wanting to get paid and get extended, what's your justification for the signing of OBJ? What's your justification for signing Lamar for $50 million a year? And I support both of those. I'm not the one being hypocritical. I think all of those guys can play and play at a high level, and we need all of them to win football games in 2023. Let's talk about the last 5 games that J.K. Dobbins played in 2022. You're seeing some pass receptions run here, by the way. I got counter schemes, stretch schemes, some downhill runs, which I think you've already seen the big one against the Steelers. When Lamar was out, the last 5 games that J.K. Dobbins played, he was just the Ravens' best player by far. In the wild card game, let's start there. He had 17 touches for 105 total yards. He only played 34 snaps. I think there's a reason why there's some snaps he doesn't play. I'll go into that in a later video. He didn't play in the regular season finale, like I mentioned, Week 18. In the Week 17 home loss to the Steelers, Dobbins had 17 carries for 93 yards in another game that Lamar didn't play in. Gus Edwards, I think, was playing injured there, only had 2 yards rushing. J.K. and Mark Andrews were really the only position players on offense who showed up. The week before that, he had 59 rushing yards in a home win over the Falcons. I think he only had 12 carries, but I could be wrong. And then the previous 2 weeks, his first 2 games back, J.K. totaled 245 rushing on only 28 carries in the Week 14 win at Pittsburgh, and then the Week 15 loss at the Browns, which to me was another example of him just not getting the ball enough. In last year's situation, 2022 offense was drastically different than what we're going to see out there in 2023. With Lamar not being on the field at all, Bateman missing so much time, Andrews battling through injuries. But let's just talk about what J.K. did in that last 5-game stretch. I'll throw some stats up here that I usually don't like to rely on, but I feel like it's pretty useful in this situation. 4 regular season games and the playoff game against the Bengals. 459 yards rushing on 70 attempts. Feel free to double check me. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake in my calculations. 6.55 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. Just flat out the Ravens' best offensive player during that stretch. Let's go to the next point here. Again, relying on stats. For his NFL career, again, it's only 23 games, 5.9 yards per carry, over 226 attempts. At Ohio State in college, where he played 3 years consecutively, 6.2 yards per carry, over 720 plus rushes. That's just who he is. He's going to average right around or at or even above 6.0 yards per carry. It was a shocking stat to see him do that in 2020. Even last year, with the game where the first 4 games that he played in, culminating, I think, in Week 6 against the Giants up in New York, and then he shut him down for a while after that. Despite that start, he still ended up at, I think, 5.87, I believe. Why wouldn't you want him on this offense in 2023 if you're a Ravens fan and you're trying to win football games? And even beyond. He's exactly the kind of running back that Todd Monken would use to torment defenses. He's got big playability. He's great on zone or power counter schemes, which is why I've aggregated or separated these into 4 distinct types of plays. Here's an example of counter up to the top side. He's just got great vision and an example of the injury having an impact. Definitely a possibility that he could just sideline that thing and try to beat the defender to the sideline. I don't think he would have in any case, but he doesn't need a lot of touches to have an impact. And that, to me, seems to be a design element of Todd Monken's offense, at least if you focus on the Georgia stuff, which I did. It's not a feature of Todd Monken's offense. I think it's a design element. Now, there's going to be people talk about how often the receivers got the ball when he was at Cleveland and Tampa Bay, and I think there's definitely some truth to that. He'll adjust, but J.K. does not need the ball 22 times to have an impact in this offense. It seems quite intentional to me that Todd Monken at Georgia utilized a lot of players who are going to get touches every game, depending on matchups. And that's the point to me. That's my point in trying to summarize this a little bit. In a 17-game season, which I wholeheartedly reject and cannot stand, but it is what it is at this point. In a 17-game season, the Ravens will need multiple guys to be that focal point, depending on the matchup, depending on who's healthy, depending on whether they're home or away, and depending on maybe who they play the following week and their record coming in. Late in 2022, again, with no Lamar, no Rashad Bateman for an extended period of time, and Mark Andrews, who clearly battled injuries for much of the year, J.K. Dobbins was enough to get the job done. He had over 100 offensive yards in that playoff loss to the Bengals. The offense, the design, the way they executed, the game plan they came in with, was enough to get the job done. It was. It didn't happen. We turned the ball over. Sam Hubbard, had a miracle 99-yard, fumble return. Great play by him. Awesome for the Bengals. In another 17-game season in 2023, the Ravens need all of those guys and more. Lamar, Bateman, J.K., Gus, OBJ, Andrews, Aguilar, Likely. Ravens need all of them. We can only deal with one season at a time. That's reality. But to me, it seems obvious to make the same statement, or to say that the same statement may apply to 2024 as well. Just like it applied in 2022. We damn near got a playoff win without our starting franchise quarterback because the staff came in with a great game plan. The guys up front executed, and J.K. was there to take advantage. I think he ran for 62 yards, had 43 yards receiving. You saw one of the catches earlier. I think the same dynamic applies in a 17-game NFL season. God forbid they ever go to an 18-game season. It'll be even more of an example of needing multiple guys. Why would someone not want J.K. Dobbins to be involved in 2023 or 2024 for that matter? I'll give you a couple of salary things, and I'm not a big salary guy. I'm glad that guys get paid a crap ton of money like they do. But having said that, is Duve worth more than J.K. Dobbins? I'm a huge Devin Duvernay fan. I can't say that he is. I'll go one step further. Is OBJ worth more than a healthy J.K. Dobbins? I can't say that he is. I haven't seen him play in a Ravens uniform yet. I think it's going to be exciting as hell. I think those guys are going to ball out. I think we need all of them on the field at the same time, though. If you focus on this year, I just don't understand how anyone advocates for going into 2023 without J.K. Dobbins being a huge part of the equation. I think at best, that's poor planning, and at worst, it will be self-destructive for the Ravens front office and or for a Ravens fan to advocate for that. Now, having said that, should the Ravens eat into the remaining cap space for this season to extend J.K.? No, I would not advocate for that at all. I love that they have a little bit of money left over, I think $8-9 million, something like that. Maybe the freedom to go get someone now at a position of need or during the season. I really think that was an excellent point that someone made. I think it was Dominic, I'm not sure, in our Discord, basically saying, hey, it would be nice to hold on to some of that money and use it during the season if we do have an injury concern to go get someone to support the team. I like that strategy. I definitely believe in J.K. Dobbins' potential and talent. You can tell from listening to this video, as well as the production the Ravens have received when he's been on the field. Like I said earlier, the coaching side of me rejects not participating in camp. If that was the case, if he's totally healthy, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. And I want him on the field for minicamp or obviously for training camp or practices. That will become a huge issue for me, at least, if he's not out there during training camp. I think the talent level of this team is incredibly high, and I believe in the coaching now that we have on offense and defense. And if the Ravens have Lamar, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and any majority selection of 5 or 6 of the wide receiver tight end combo groups, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar, Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, who I didn't even mention yet, Devin Duvernay, OBJ, Aguilar, the Ravens have any majority selection of that group, meaning 1 or 2 guys may go down in a particular week and not play. I think the Ravens have a great chance to win every week. Is it a tough schedule? Absolutely. Do I think there's some serious pitfalls there? For sure. I said when the schedule came, not even when the schedule came out, just the list of 2023 opponents. I said to some guys in the Discord, I said, this schedule is way different than 2022. and certainly different than 2021. You guys let me know what you think of some of my thoughts. I'm not sure how anyone could advocate for not wanting J.K. to be on the field and getting the football like this in 2023. Now that it appears he's completely healthy, or you would presume that he is, based on the film we saw the last time he played, he was the Ravens' best player. And that's the dynamic I think that really Todd Monken and the offensive staff are shooting for, is different guy every week. One week it could be Bateman with 9 catches for 140 and 2 touchdowns. The next week it could be OBJ with 10 catches, 4 of them, for third down conversions because he's great at that, and a couple of touchdown catches in the red zone. The following week we might rely more on Lamar's legs. J.K., Gus, or even Hill could play into it as a running back, giving the Ravens what they need. I think the offense is ready to roll. I would love to see J.K. out there the next time that the Ravens come back. I guess they get a month off for training camp, before training camp begins. You guys let me know what you think of any of my thoughts about J.K.'s usage, role, talent level, and potential in 2023, and or the idea of extending him. I would absolutely advocate for that. I look at this year's draft, 2022, and 2023, I potentially see 2 guys at the running back position who maybe equal his talent level, and that's it. And they were both drafted in the first round. Moving backwards a year, I don't see anyone at the running back position who has equivalent talent to J.K. Dobbins. I guess my point is, on a year-by-year basis, I don't see a guy you can go get who's better than J.K. Dobbins immediately. Would I want to pay J.K. $12 million a year? Of course not. If the Ravens and J.K. could figure out a way to settle on some type of 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option depending on games played and production, I would advocate for that. You guys let me know what you think of that closing thought and the video as a whole. Appreciate you guys' time. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this video, please consider grabbing a link and sharing the video out on social media to help this video get more reach.